Out in the far fields of a distant colony, a farmer's ordinary walk through the barley turned into the beginning of a mystery that would change humanity forever. Because buried in the soil was not a stone, not a machine, but a glowing egg alive with something waiting to be born. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video and tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Now, let's jump into the story. The morning was quiet on the colony world of Gardner 3C. Wind towers turned slowly on the ridges, their blades whispering like distant waves. In the low fields, rows of barley shifted in the breeze. Farmer Joran Molly walked between the stalks, checking a soil valve that had sent another fault message. He expected nothing unusual. He only wanted his crops to stay alive through another season. Then his boot struck something solid. It was not stone, and it was not metal. He crouched down, brushed away bent stalks, and froze. In the dirt rested an egg as large as a water barrel. Its shell gleamed silver, traced with thin glowing lines that pulsed softly like the beat of a living heart. Joran's first thought was to call Central Control. The colony office had strict rules about unregistered discoveries. Anything found was removed, studied, and usually never returned. But he did not reach for his communicator. Instead, he stared, mouth dry, afraid that sound would shatter the fragile glow. After a long pause, he sent a short signal to Maria Ash, his nearest neighbor. She had once been a scientist before turning to farming. If anyone could explain what this was, it would be her. 20 minutes later, Maria arrived in her old ground cart. Her gray hair was tied back, and her sharp eyes missed nothing. She climbed down, looked at the strange object, and her face turned serious. "This is no rock," she said softly. She pulled a handheld scanner from her pack and ran it across the curved surface. The device chirped, then spilled unreadable symbols across the small screen. Maria's voice dropped lower. "It's organic. Energy levels are high, and the curve matches something about to hatch." Joran blinked. "You mean alive? Something inside this thing is about to break free?" Maria nodded slowly. "Living, and not far from ready." For a moment they both stared at the glowing shell. Silence filled the barley field. Joran thought of the colony officials again. The ones who took anything unusual. If he reported it now, the egg would vanish into a laboratory and he would never know what came from it. He shook his head. "If we call them, we lose it. Let's move it to the barn. We can keep it safe until we know what it is." Maria studied him, then gave a thin smile. "You are right, but we will need care. It could be dangerous or it could be something we have never dreamed of. Either way, it deserves more than to be locked away." They brought the lifting rig. The egg was heavier than it looked, as though carrying the weight of a mountain. Each time it shifted, the silver lines brightened, humming faintly. Without thinking, both of them whispered apologies, as if the egg could feel every bump. Inside the old equipment barn, they cleared a space. Blankets were laid down, lamps were set to provide steady heat, and cool air flowed gently from a vent. Maria placed small sensors around the shell to track every change. She checked the readings again. The outer layer is thinning. Maybe 2 days, maybe less. Joran nodded. His hands shook as he set down tools. "What do we do while we wait?" "We watch," she said, "and we prepare." The day passed in nervous tasks. Joran brought extra water and food into the barn. Maria tuned her instruments, listening to faint signals that made no sense, but clearly showed life. When night came, they set up chairs and decided to take shifts. Neither really believed they would sleep. The egg glowed brighter as the stars rose. The silver lines pulsed in rhythm, filling the barn with a strange peace. Joran sat with a cup of tea cooling in his hand. He could not look away. Near midnight, the first crack appeared. It was a thin white line across the surface. A shard fell away and struck the floor with a clear chime, like glass that wanted to be music. Joran's breath caught in his throat. Maria leaned forward. It's starting. Another piece broke free, another delicate tone. The silver lines flared like trapped lightning. The egg was not breaking apart in silence. It was singing its own birth. The opening widened. Something dark moved inside, smooth and shining. Then a head pushed through, long and fine, covered in scales that shifted from deep blue to bright silver. Eyes opened, large, glowing, aware. These were not the eyes of a confused animal. They searched the barn, studied the rafters, and then focused on the two humans. Shards fell in soft music. The being climbed out on 4 legs, but its limbs ended in hands with long, delicate fingers. Folded against its back were wings so thin they were almost invisible, until the lamplight touched them and filled them with rainbow color, like soap bubbles stretched into impossible shapes. Joran and Maria sat frozen, not daring to move. The air itself felt sacred. The creature lifted its head and made a sound. It was not a roar or a cry. It was a single clear note that curled like birdsong. Warmth swept through Joran's chest, settling deep in his heart. Then a voice spoke, not out loud, but inside his thoughts. It was gentle, curious, like a child greeting a new friend. "Hello," said the voice. "I have been waiting to meet you." Joran rose so fast, his chair toppled behind him. He stared at the being, unable to speak. Maria asked quickly, "What did you hear?" He swallowed, unable to answer. The voice came again, calm, almost amused. "Only you can hear me now. Soon, she will too. Do not fear me." Joran felt no fear. He felt only wonder. The barley field, the colony rules, the ordinary life he had known, all of it shifted in that single moment. A new chapter had begun, and the world would never be the same. Dawn broke over the colony world with pale light spreading across the barley fields. Inside the barn, the air was warm and hushed. The strange creature that had hatched from the silver egg now rested on a folded blanket, its wings tucked tight against its back. Joran Molly sat nearby, fighting sleep, afraid to look away even for a moment. Maria Ash checked her instruments again and again, her tired eyes sharp with curiosity. She whispered her notes softly, calling the newcomer Subject A, until a better name appeared. The creature stirred, lifted its head and met their eyes. In that instant, a thought slipped into their minds, clear and certain. "My name is Nima." Joran blinked hard, glancing at Maria. She had heard it too. There was no doubt. The name did not come from a sound, but from a voice placed directly into their thoughts. Maria scribbled in her log with shaky hands. She named herself Nima, she whispered. Joran moved carefully, setting out a plate of fruit and a bowl of porridge. The hatchling pushed herself onto unsteady legs and walked with delicate grace toward the food. Her hands, more like long fingers than paws, lifted each piece with surprising care. She ate slowly, her scales brightening with each bite. Maria studied her readings. "Energy levels stabilizing," she murmured. She needed this. After the meal, Nima walked toward the open barn door. Joran followed at a respectful distance. When she reached the garden rows outside, she paused. Her gaze drifted over the leaves and soil, and something unseen passed between her and the plants. The vegetables seemed to lift as though greeting her attention. Colors deepened, leaves straightened, and the beds looked healthier than they had the day before. Joran's breath caught. "Did you see that?" he asked softly. Mireia nodded, astonished. It's as if the plants responded to her presence. A picture appeared in their minds, placed gently by Nima. It was the image of seedlings reaching upward under the sun, alive and eager. The meaning was simple. She sang to what was already there, helping it remember how to grow. Back in the barn, the creature curled once more on her blanket. Patterns shimmered faintly across her folded wings. Like the veins of leaves catching sunlight, she slept deeply, and even in sleep, her presence felt like a soft hum through the air. By midday, she had grown. It was not only size. Her movements were stronger, her eyes more aware. When she looked at Mireia, the bond widened. Mireia gasped softly and pressed a hand to her chest. "I can hear her clearly now," she whispered. "She is speaking to me too." Nima dipped her head as if to acknowledge the connection. "Thank you for watching while I rested," she said inside their minds. Mireia laughed once, a sound of relief and wonder. "You are welcome," she answered aloud. They spoke without words, sharing through images and feelings. Nima showed them visions like rivers of memory. The scenes were powerful and strange. They saw a world that looked almost like Earth, but brighter. In its skies flew beings like Nima, some on 4 limbs, some walking upright, wings shimmering in colors no human had named. Below them, humans worked side by side with dragons. Fields stretched in spirals, floating gardens drifted among clouds, and machines moved with the power of thought rather than fuel. Then, the visions shifted. Storms of conflict rose. Humans turned on their partners out of fear and jealousy. Dragons hid their eggs, scattering them across distant worlds to wait for another chance. The visions ended, leaving Joran and Mireia silent. Mireia wiped her eyes with the back of her sleeve. "We called it magic," she whispered, "but it was only knowledge that we forgot." Nima pulsed a soft response. "Remember with me." Joran felt a pull to reach out. He stretched his hand toward her head, hesitating for permission. Her eyes glowed, and the answer formed in his mind, a warm yes. His fingers touched the smooth scales. A bright link formed. It was not painful or heavy. It was like standing in sunlight after long shadows. Joran suddenly understood his land more clearly. He could sense where the soil needed water, where roots were thirsty, and even how the weather would shift tomorrow. He gasped softly. "This is real. I can feel the farm itself." Mireia watched her screens. The data streams now seemed simple, patterns clicking into place. She whispered, "This is not magic. It is science with a wider doorway." Nima walked with them through the tomato rows. Joran paused by one plant, knowing before looking that it lacked nutrients. When he checked, the leaves showed exactly what he had sensed. Nima's calm voice brushed their minds. All living things wish to be seen. That night, they spoke of rules. No reaching into minds without asking. No forcing thoughts. Everything would be by consent. Nima agreed, sending them a warm sense of approval. As darkness settled, the barn glowed with a soft light from her scales. Joran set a pile of clean blankets in the corner. Nima curled like a cat, wings folding over her body like a shelter of rainbows. Before she drifted into sleep, she sent a final message. "Together we can do more than apart." Joran sat for a long time, listening to the wind towers outside and the steady breathing inside. His life as a simple farmer felt as though it had ended. Something greater had stepped into his world, and he was part of it now. He knew sleep would not come easily, yet as he sat in the barn, he realized he was not afraid. Instead, he felt hope. Hope that tomorrow would bring answers, and hope that he and Maria could guide Nima through the bond had been formed, and the future had already begun to change. 3 days passed after the hatching. The barn had become the center of a secret world. Farmer Joran Malley, his neighbor Maria Ash, and the young dragon Nima lived in quiet rhythm. Crops grew greener, soil grew richer, and every morning the fields looked healthier than the day before. Yet secrets never stay hidden for long on a small colony. Whispers moved faster than wind across the settlement. It was Professor Hiral Naidu who arrived first. His rover pulled into the yard, dust swirling in its wake. Hiral was a plant scientist, known for walking fields with notebooks tucked under both arms. He had heard rumors of sudden growth in Joran's barley. Stepping out of his rover, he adjusted his glasses and bent low over the plants. "Your vines are weeks ahead of schedule," he said carefully. "How is this possible?" Joran and Maria exchanged nervous looks. Lying to a scientist like Hiral felt wrong. ... But the truth carried heavy risks. Joran motioned toward the barn. "Come inside. There is something you should see." Inside, the barn glowed faintly with warm light. Nima stood in the center, wings folded, eyes steady. Hiral froze at the sight, his notebook sliding from his hands to the dirt floor. Nima tilted her head and spoke softly into his thoughts. "Hello, Hiral. You may sit if you wish." Hiral stumbled back onto a crate, staring in disbelief. "I can hear her," he whispered. "She is speaking without words." Mira stepped forward. "She is intelligent, and she is peaceful. We have been studying her since she hatched." Hiral pressed a hand to his chest, overwhelmed. Then slowly he nodded. "This is not danger. This is discovery." Nima offered him a glimpse of her bond. It was not forced. It was an invitation. Hiral accepted, and in an instant, his mind filled with patterns he had studied all his life, but never understood so clearly. The growth of roots, ... the rhythm of rain, the hidden language of plants, all of it lined up in perfect sense. He exhaled shakily. "This is no trick. This is knowledge. She is showing me what I could not see before." Hiral promised to keep their secret. For 2 days he managed, but the colony was small, and unusual harvests drew attention. Before long, the colony office sent a formal convoy. Early one morning, Joran and Maria heard engines in the distance. 3 vehicles rolled into the farmyard, carrying Commissioner Lane Okoro and a security detail led by Marshal Tora Hune. Their presence made the barn seem smaller, its walls pressing in with tension. Commissioner Lane stepped forward, her uniform neat, her tone official. "Farmer Malley, we've received reports of an unregistered alien life form on this property. Under colonial law, such discoveries must be reported immediately. Where is it?" Joran lifted his chin. "Commissioner, we have found something, but it is not a threat. Please, see for yourself." Before Lane could respond, Nima emerged from the shadows. Her scales shimmered silver blue, her eyes glowing calm light. The security team reacted instantly, raising their weapons. Marshal Tora barked an order, steady but sharp. Nima's voice entered every mind in the barn at once. "Lower your weapons. I am not your enemy." The guards froze, uncertain. Some looked around, searching for speakers, but the voice was unmistakably inside their thoughts. Commissioner Lane stiffened. "What are you?" "I am called a dragon in your oldest stories," Nima answered. "I do not come to harm. I come to help you remember what your people have lost." Lane's stern face softened as a wave of calm washed through her mind. For a moment, she felt clearer, her thoughts straighter than they had been in years. She whispered without meaning to, "I can think without fog. What did you do?" Nima replied gently, "I showed you yourself. Nothing more." Marshal Torah remained wary. "You could be forcing us to feel this. How do we know you are not controlling us?" Nima lowered her head respectfully. "Good to name your fear. I will never touch your mind without your choice." The words rang true, steady and patient. Torah's grip on his weapon loosened slightly, though his eyes stayed sharp. The commissioner faced Joran and Maria. "You should have reported this. You risked the colony." Joran spoke firmly. "If we had reported her, you would have taken her away. We chose to learn first. Now you see what she is, intelligent, peaceful, and willing to share knowledge." Lane hesitated, caught between duty and wonder. Finally, she sighed. "We will make a report, but without details for now. The council must decide how to proceed." The vehicles departed in a trail of dust, leaving the farmyard silent again. Joran, Maria, Kirill, and Nima stood together, the weight of the encounter heavy on their shoulders. That evening, the colony's network filled with debate. Voices argued across the airwaves, some demanding protection, others begging to meet the dragon, many simply curious. Farmers whispered about miracle crops. Teachers wondered if students could learn directly from her. In the barn, the small circle gathered once more. Hyrule rubbed his temples. "This secret will not stay hidden. The truth is out. Now the whole colony is watching." Maria looked at Nima. "What happens next?" Nima's eyes glowed brighter, her wings shifting with faint color. "More doors are coming," she said. Joran frowned. "What doors?" She only gave a soft answer, the kind that waits. That night, as the twin moons rose over the fields, the farm felt less like a hiding place and more like a beacon. The truth had stepped onto their doorstep, and it would not leave quietly. The sun rose gently over the barley fields of Gardner 3C. The colony stirred with the sounds of morning, but something unusual soon pulled every eye to the sky. At first, they looked like silver stars hanging above the western ridge. Then, slowly, the shapes grew brighter and larger until no one could deny what they were. 12 vessels drifted down through the upper clouds. They did not look like machines built with bolts and steel. They looked alive, as if they had been grown. Their surfaces curved like water frozen mid-wave, glowing softly in shifting colors. Children pointed and shouted. Workers stepped out of greenhouses, shielding their eyes. Even the officials in the colony square fell silent. For many, fear was the first reaction. For others, wonder pushed away every other thought. At Joran Mali's farm, the barn doors swung open. Nima, the young dragon who had hatched only days before, stood with wings half lifted, her scales flashing like rippling metal. She gazed upward with recognition. "They are here," she said in their minds. Joran, Miria Ash, and Professor Hiral Naidu gathered beside her. Their breath caught as the largest vessel descended toward the wide field. It touched the ground with a grace no human ship could manage, landing as lightly as a feather. A section of the vessel opened like a blooming flower. From the glow stepped a tall figure. She walked on 2 legs, her body covered in violet scales threaded with streaks of gold. She wore a garment that shimmered as if woven from dawn itself. Her eyes glowed with calm authority. "I am Sevi Althara." Her voice sounded both in the air and in their minds. "I speak for those who waited." Nima ran forward with clear joy. pressing her forehead against Sevi's in greeting. The gesture was simple, but carried the weight of ancient custom. Commissioner Lena Koro and Marshal Tora Hyun arrived quickly with a unit of security. The guards raised their weapons at the sight of the towering newcomer, but Sevi lifted one hand. Her presence radiated peace, though her strength was obvious. "This is human territory," Lane called firmly. "You cannot land here without permission from the colonial office." Sevi's eyes softened. "Permission is a noble custom, but our young were placed here long before your colony was built. We have come because one of them has been welcomed. Now the time of reunion begins." Hiral Naidu stepped closer, voice trembling with curiosity. "Are there more like Nima?" "Many," Sevi answered, "and many kinds. Some walk on 4 legs with wings. Some walk upright as I do. All carry memory and knowledge. All seek harmony, not conquest." As she spoke, the other vessels landed in nearby fields. From them emerged dragons of every shape, small and graceful, tall and robed, winged and bright. The air filled with colors as scales reflected the sun. They did not come with demands. They came with gifts. To farmers, they offered seeds that grew stronger and faster, able to thrive in poor soil. They taught methods of layering crops to save water and expand harvests. To engineers, they revealed fibers lighter than air, yet stronger than steel. To doctors in the settlement clinic, they showed ways of healing that encouraged the body to restore itself. And to anyone who asked sincerely, they offered the bond. It was never forced. It was an invitation. A door to clearer thought, a deeper sense of connection. Hiral accepted and soon cried with gratitude when patterns of plant growth became simple to him. Mirao learned how to test soil by touch, reading its song as if it were a living book. Even children who brushed against the dragons felt bursts of creativity, drawing and building with new energy. Not everyone welcomed the change. Some colonists feared manipulation. A group in the Eastern Dome argued that the dragons might control their thoughts or seize the colony. Marshal Tora listened carefully to their worries. Though still cautious, he had seen Sevi's honesty and the gentleness in Nima's bond. He did not silence the doubters, but he reminded his officers to lower their weapons. Sevi requested one meeting where all colonists could gather openly. The wide field near Joran's farm became the place. Hundreds arrived with questions and doubts. "How does the bond work?" someone called. "Will we lose ourselves?" asked another. "Are our children safe?" shouted a worried parent. Sevi and the others answered calmly. "The bond is consent. It does not erase. It unfolds. It does not force. It steadies. Every choice remains your own." A farm child named Nadi raised her hand shyly. "Can you make my grandmother's tomatoes taste less sour?" Laughter rippled through the crowd, breaking the heavy mood. A copper-scaled dragon knelt beside the girl and her grandmother, showing them how a trellis and a pinch of minerals could change the fruit. The crowd relaxed, suspicion softening into curiosity. As the sun lowered, the colonists voted. By simple raising of hands, they agreed to create something new. They called it the Shared Acres. It would be both farm and school, open to all who wished to learn with dragons and humans together. No fences, no gates, only paths of learning. Marshal Tora signed the safety pledge with a rare smile. Commissioner Lane wrote the founding statement, "We choose learning over fear." That night, Joran placed a small recorder on a fence post. His voice was steady as he spoke. First day of the Shared Acres. Today, seeds were planted with songs I do not yet understand. Tomorrow, we will see what grows. In the barn, Nima looked up at the glowing ships. Her eyes sparkled, and she sent a message outward, gentle and strong. "We are ready. Come curious, come kind." Sevi Althara stood beside her, wings shimmering. Maria leaned against the doorway, tired but smiling. Hyrule sat with a notebook open, pages filled with fresh ideas. The colony of Gardener 3C had changed forever. No longer only farmers and settlers, they were now partners in something larger. The return of the Skyfarers marked not the end of their story, but the beginning of a new chapter. One shaped by courage, trust, and the promise that together they could build a future brighter than the stars above them.